What is going on, everybody? Welcome everybody into the Overreaction Buffalo Sports Show on the Overreaction Buffalo Sports Network. My name is Joe Miller. You can find me on Twitter at Joe Miller Wired. That guy sitting next to me is Jerry Ostrowski, former Buffalo Bill. Jerry Ostrowski, you can find him on Twitter at Ostrowski_Big O. We are so glad that you are joining us. This is our fourth show this week. We put in some time.
Yes, we have.
With the schedule release, please do us a favor. Please like, please subscribe. Whatever platform you are consuming this video cast or podcast on, please do us the favor of hitting the thumbs up button, hitting the subscribe button. We like to say it. We're on a rush, the countdown to 1,000. And when we hit 1,000 on YouTube, we can bring you guys some extra content, those of you that want it from us. But I'm excited that you're here. Welcome to everybody that's in the chat in the comments section. Jerry always says this too. If you're on Twitter, if you're on Facebook, jump over to the comments section on YouTube because the community's better there. But Jerry O, how you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good, man. We got 931 subscribers, and we need to get to 1,000. So, folks, we need your help. Get out there and tell your friends to just harass them. Peer pressure. Peer pressure is a big thing nowadays. So a little bit of peer pressure, but hey, we appreciate you joining us. We're having a really, really good time with this. We're enjoying it. Kind of revigorated. John is coaching spring practice, his son's football team in high school. So that's why he's not with us.
John's AWOL.
John's AWOL.
I'm just gonna call him AWOL.
But hey, we're going to take a little deeper dive into the schedule tonight. We're going to talk about each individual game. I looked up some stuff earlier, Joe, that I thought was interesting. Kind of just try to take a little deeper dive into the schedule, what's going on. But from NFL.com, I want to make sure that I put out there where I got this because, some people like to take things and reword them and then put them back out as their actual thoughts.
That's a fresh wound right there.
Yeah, so I want to make sure I go ahead and preface that by saying NFL.com has our strength of schedule at .516. That is tied for sixth in the league. So if you look at some other people, they take other factors into play and everything. I'll just put it to you this way. I've seen this anywhere from second, and nobody has us out of the top 10. So once again, another tough schedule for the Buffalo Bills. A lot of it has to do with our conference opponents. We've got to play Miami twice. We got to play the Jets twice. And some people do, and I know this is going to be crazy to you, some people do have the Jets, Joe, as a playoff team.
I don't doubt that. It's very possible.
Oh, I think so too. I think as long as Aaron Rodgers stays healthy, and they did some things on the offensive line. We'll talk about that here in a little bit as we get into those Jets games. I know Joe took Joe didn't take anything. I told Joe what I was doing.
That's right.
And he fell right into place. So Joe's going to go with the odd games. I'm going to take the even games. But again, real quick, looking at this schedule, marquee matchups, we're looking at week number 4. We play Baltimore at Baltimore. Week 11, we're at home against Kansas City. Week 13, we are home against San Francisco. By the way, that's the Super Bowl champs and the Super Bowl runner-ups. So, again, tough opponents in that stretch. Bye week mixed in. Bills will face, speaking of those types of teams, Bills face all 4 teams that made the conference championship last season. And, again, that brutal stretch of the season kind of happens week 11 to week 15, where they'll take the Chiefs, Niners, and Rams on with a bye week in between the Chiefs and Niners games. So, tough schedule for the Buffalo Bills. And then week 5 that Joe will talk about here in a little bit will be the Stephon Diggs Bowl. We will have that this season down in Houston. So let's we'd like to keep these things to a half hour. Again, we appreciate you jumping in with us. Thank you so much. And if you're on Twitter, again, if you're on Facebook Live, hop on over to YouTube where you can get in on the comments. But Joe, let's start us off with week 1 and those Arizona Cardinals.
Before I get there, quick news that we were supposed to start the show with. The Bills released no, it wasn't your fault. Quintez Cephas. And like Jerry said, we barely knew you, my friend. Yes, so he is now no longer former Buffalo Bill, Quintez Cephas.
Former Buffalo Bill. Former P1.
Yeah, and the Buffalo Bills have signed in his place D. Delaney. And at this point, you just figure that these guys are not camp bodies necessarily. Everybody has a chance to make a roster. You are a phenomenal example of that. Like, there's guys out there that surprise. Andy Isabella was on this team last year. Like, there's guys that at least make the practice squad. So hopefully D. Delaney brings something to this team. But yes, the Bills have moved on from Quintez Cephas. So
let me ask you about this real quick before we get into week one. What do you think about the Scantling signing?
Scaling signing. Help me out. I missed it.
The Chiefs, the wide receiver.
I didn't see it.
You did not see it.
I did not see it.
Well, my goodness.
I've been traveling the last 2 weeks, so I was nose down on my laptop all day today.
The man that dropped this was a couple days ago. The man known for dropping the football, especially against us. But the Bills went ahead and signed him. Another.
Oh no, Scantling. Oh, Valdez Scantling. I said scaling. My fault. I'm
not scaling. Scantling.
Scantling. How do I feel about Scantling? So I feel like my feelings that everybody else probably shares or shared before the signing, that he was Mr. Dropsies. Some information has come out that he doesn't drop the ball maybe at the rate that we feel that he has or has done, and he has apparently made some relatively clutch catches in the playoffs for the Chiefs that actually propelled them to wins over Buffalo and some other ones. At the end of the day, if a guy can help the team, I'm all for it, right? I mean, that's kind of where we're at. Who was it that said it? I think Vic Carucci said it on the beat with John Fina. He said, I don't want to call it wide receiver by committee, because that kind of downplays some of their roles or who they are. But that literally is what's happening here. It is wide receiver by committee.
I have no problem with that. I have no problem with that. I'm not, I mean, obviously you'd like to have that home run hitter. We always do, right? We always want that guy that is explosive, makes a play after the catch and all of that stuff. But if we've got a room of really, really solid guys that you can put in position, in a few positions, 2-3 positions that they do really, really well. When I say positions, I don't necessarily mean 1, 2, 3 or X, Y. And I'm talking about, it's kind of that old Patriots way, right? It's what Belichick was really, really good at.
Yeah.
He was able to get veteran type guys, sign them cheap, and say, look, I don't need you to do all the stuff you used to do. I just need you to do these 2 things. I need you to do them really, really well.
Right.
And if that's the way this wide receiver room goes, I honestly don't have a problem with that.
They just got to be productive, right? So let's get into this thing. We are already almost 9 minutes into the show, and we've got to not hurry, but we've got to be efficient. Right. We got to be efficient because there's 17 games we got to talk. Actually, that's not true. We've got 14 games to talk about because 3 of them are doubles. Yes. Week 1, I do have the Arizona Cardinals coming to Buffalo for the Buffalo Bills home opener. Second-year head coach Jonathan Gannon went 4-13 last year. I'm going to be honest with you. That is the only head coach whose name I did not know in the NFL. When I looked it up today, like I was thinking, I was like, who is the? And I was like, Jonathan Gannon, rookie head coach. I believe this is his second year, right? Last year he went 4-13. Yes. Kyler Murray should be fully healthy, which is a little bit concerning, as you said yesterday in the program, that he has the ability to be very dangerous when he is extremely healthy. So the Bills will have fun chasing him around the football field. They drafted Marvin Harrison Jr. Free agent signings. They signed mostly their offensive line, so they're in kind of a retooling phase. In 2024, retooling that offensive line in front of Kyler, which makes a lot of sense. His escapability is phenomenal. It's off the charts. He's fast. He can deliver the football. That offensive line getting bolstered up, if they accomplished that feat, is going to do them well. They did, however, lose Marquise Hollywood Brown. When you look at this football game, first of the season, again, there's things at play here. One of those things is West Coast team coming east for a 1:00 game. That always kind of it doesn't mean that they don't ever win, but it does set them off kilter a little bit. Also, I heard today on WGR 55, as I was driving around picking up one of my girls from practice or something like that, the Arizona Cardinals have only won in Buffalo 1 time, and it was before, I think it was before either I was born or something like that. They've only won in Buffalo once, so they've got that. That's a weird thing that does affect teams. There's certain teams that just don't play well in certain stadiums. It's kind of strange. But yeah, so this is going to be a fun game. I don't know if you got a quick thought about this, or if you just want to move on to week 2, but
No, I think it's a team that could be very, very explosive. I think how this game goes is basically does Marvin Harrison come in and without a ton of issues move right into that role
Yep.
as the big
Yep.
play receiver for them? Is he give does he give Kyler Murray that target that he needs? And the one thing that I do like about this matchup is I don't think defensively they're very, very good. I think they're average at best.
Right.
And I like this matchup with us, and I think it's a very, very good warm up with that type of quarterback in Marvin Harrison as we roll into week 2, which is in Miami Thursday night. That's September 12th. And you look at the Dolphins led by Mike McDaniel. Last season they were 11-6, and they did lose some key players. They lost Christian Wilkins. They lost Robert Hunt. Andrew Van Ginkel is no longer with them. But they did bring in some guy named Poyer, some guy named Jordan Poyer, another
never,
dude.
Never heard of him. Never
Heard of him. Some guy named Shaq. Some guy named Shaq Barrett. They do got Kendall Fuller, John O. Smith, and then Jordan Brooks. They brought in, and again, their probably biggest name they brought in this offseason, Odell Beckham Jr. His signing makes that wide receiver room a little bit deeper.
Yeah, very
Tua
interesting.
on the verge. Again. Tua seems to always have something hanging over him, right? He always has some sort of stressor on him. And last year it was the concussions. Can he stay healthy? This year he's probably getting ready to be the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. So he's going to have to play to that level for the fan base.
Good luck.
Yeah, for the fan base to be happy, right?
Hey, Tua, go out there and play better than Patrick Mahomes.
Right, exactly. So Miami, their draft was okay. I thought they maybe overdrafted a little bit early in the draft, but they did get some key players late. So Thursday night, September 12th. Any thoughts, Joe?
Not really. I mean, for me, I like that it's an evening game. There's an aspect of that stadium and kind of what we went through a couple of years ago when it was 100 and bazillion degrees on the football field. So for me, this is a good thing to keep for us, for the Bills. It's a good thing. Weather matters, and weather makes a difference in football games. It's a fact. There's a reason the Dolphins have never won a football game, I think, under the 25 degrees or something like that. Right. So I like that. But no, this is a tough game to not want to go to every year for me. The Dolphins away game is always a tough game for me to not want to go, for me to not go to, because I want to go to it. But no, yeah, it should be good. So we're not going to do predictions yet, so I'm going to reserve that. But
we need to have John around before we do predictions.
Right. And then week 3, the Jacksonville Jaguars are coming to Buffalo to play at Highmark Stadium. Doug Peterson is entering his 3rd year as head coach. 2023, they were 9-8. They missed the playoffs, but they beat the Bills in London. I was at that football game. Signed Gabe Davis and released Zay Jones. Kind of a weird swap in 50% catch rate wide receivers at former Buffalo Bill 50% catch rate receivers. Now, Zay Jones increased his catch rate. He did better as he left the Bills. But so we'll see if Gabe follows kind of that same pattern. But it was just a weird little swap for me. They did draft Brian Thomas Jr. In the first round of the draft this year. So obviously there's some other ideas. They lost Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley is no longer there, and Calvin Ridley is a very good wide receiver. Their biggest free agent signing was Eric Armstead, and they obviously picked up Mitch Morse as Mitch left Buffalo. They were 8th in passing last year, 24th in rushing in yards. They were 13th in total touchdowns. And defensively, they were 17th. So this is not the best probably football team on paper and even necessarily on the field, but they can get you. And they got the Bills last year. Trevor Lawrence is a big boy. He's got similarities to Josh Allen, and they've got some weapons, right? That Travis Etienne is still there. This is going to be a tough football game for the Buffalo Bills, but it is in prime time. It's on Monday Night Football, September 23rd in Buffalo.
The thing that makes me a little bit nerved up about this game is this is another season where Trevor Lawrence is working with Doug Peterson, the head coach.
Yeah,
used to be a quarterback in the NFL, a guy that was a Super Bowl winning head coach of the Eagles, was an offense coordinator in the NFL before that. I think that's a tremendous pairing, those two. I think Trevor Lawrence is I don't want to say he's Carson. I am going to say it. Some of his abilities and stuff are what we all thought Carson Wentz was going to be before the ACL injury and the injury issues that he had. Pederson had Carson Wentz playing at a high level before the injury. I think that this guy's going to come back and have another good season and be better because he's with Pedersen. So that's the thing that makes me a little nerved up about it. I think Jacksonville, yeah, I mean, everything's right in front of you. I don't think there's anything sneaky about them. I don't think there's anything that we don't, or these things we don't see.
Right.
But that relationship and another year of maturation, that can be a very, very formidable pairing in the NFL. Doug Pedersen is head coach, Trevor Lawrence is quarterback.
That's awesome. Excellent.
All right, let's go to week 4. We got at the Ravens, our second primetime game after Miami on Thursday night. We got the Ravens in Baltimore. Sunday Night Football, September 29th. Last season, the Ravens, obviously 13-4, a very high seed rolling into the playoffs. We all know about Lamar Jackson. We all know about this football team. They did have success in bringing defensive lineman Justin Matabuke back this offseason, which was big for them. They did lose Patrick Queen, and they also lost Geno Stone. But again, this is a Ravens team with a ferocious defense, and the strength of their defense is their linebacker room and their secondary. So losing a couple of guys there is not going to make or break this defense. This Ravens defense is going to be physical. They still like to have that attitude. They still play a lot like Ray Lewis used to play. I'd expect them to wear the purple jerseys and the black pants this game. I mean, this is a defense that likes to intimidate people. And as far as intimidating players in the NFL, is there anybody more intimidating at the running back position than their free agent acquisition this offseason in Derrick Henry? So again, Harbaugh, just like his brother, we're going to play tough physical defense. We're going to run the football, and we're going to allow Lamar to make the big plays that he can make, but I'm not going to sit there and have him go back and pat the ball 50 times a game and throw it that much. It's just, if they're doing that, they're not in rhythm. They're not in the mode they want to be in. But if you look at this Ravens team, they do have some needs up front. Morgan Moses, Kevin Zeitler, and John Simpson, all starting offensive linemen, are now playing elsewhere. They did address that in the draft with Roger Rosengarten, the tackle from Washington, who I saw play in person, who's a good football player. So, again, I expect this Ravens team, although a couple guys left, a couple guys come in, they're going to be just as good as last year. And anytime Lamar Jackson takes a snap under center, he can take it to the house. So this is going to be a really, really tough football game for the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, for sure. And it's funny. This is the first time they've had a legitimate, in my opinion, running back, like a real, true running back. Even though he is getting a little bit older, it's going to be scary.
Well, in their Super Bowl runs, they had running backs, right?
Yeah, I'm talking about
as of late. Yes,
yeah, the Lamar Jackson kind of like versions of them.
Yes.
So, but both of them have the ability to take one snap to the house. So it'll be interesting what happens. Week 5, the Buffalo Bills travel to Houston, Texas, the second road game in a row for the Buffalo Bills. The Texans were arguably and easily, maybe not arguably, the surprise of the 2023 season. They were a playoff team in 2023 with a rookie head coach and DeMeco Ryans. CJ Stroud, they had a rookie quarterback as well, played very, like, just it's surprising how well he played as a quarterback. I'm going to give you his numbers. He had a completion percentage of 64%. He had 4,100 yards, 23 touchdowns. He finished the season with a 100 passer rating, which is unbelievable as it pertains to just quarterbacks. Even when you expect, I don't think that expectation was out there for CJ. Just played well. As we know, this is the Buffalo Bills Stephon Diggs Bowl, as Stephon Diggs is now there with Tank Dell and Nico Collins. Their free agent signings outside of Stephon Diggs in the trade that they made with Buffalo, which obviously isn't a free agent signing, but their free agent signings were mostly re-signing their own, kind of keeping their own pieces, which makes a lot of sense when you look at what they did last year. So there's a great deal of let's run back what we can run back, and then let's bolster where we need to bolster. One of those bolsters besides Stephon Diggs, they also added Joe Mixon. Devin Singletary is no longer there. The Houston Texans last year were 12th in total yards, finished one spot ahead of the Bills in passing, which is remarkable. They were 22nd in rushing, which is obviously why they went and got Joe Mixon, and they finished the season 11th on defense.
I'm a big fan of the Houston Texans. Do you want to know why? You want to know why I know they're going to be pretty good?
Why is that?
Because J.J. Watt came out and said, "Well, if you need me, I can show back up and play." And JJ likes to gloss himself, but JJ's not a dumb guy. So the fact that JJ Watt told him if they needed him, he would come back tells me all I need to know. It'll be interesting to see how the league handles Stroud this season.
Yeah.
Is now with a season of prep, a whole season of tape. Our defensive coordinator is going to be able to pick and choose and maybe see some tendencies of him. But no.
That's the big thing, right? The big thing is when not the book, when the book comes out. I mean, there's always that's generally what happens. But when they find ways to scramble his brain, can he overcome it? That's the big thing for young quarterback.
Right. So we'll see how that goes. I think this is a team on the rise, obviously. This point in the season, you wouldn't expect injuries to be a big factor. But again, another really, really tough road game for the Bills. And that takes us right into week 6, our third primetime game of the season at week 6. We're in New York at the Jets.
That's our fourth.
Our fourth game. So we're at the Jets. October 14th, Monday Night Football. Last season, the Jets were 7-10. We all know why, folks. It happened 17 seconds into the season. Aaron Rodgers is out. Aaron Rodgers is back. When you look at this Jets team and what has everybody talked about or every Bills fan pointed out to, well, he's not going to make it because they don't have an offensive line to protect them. Well, not only did they go out and get 3 offensive line guys, they got 3 older vet type guys that you expect to plug and play, and that's Tyron Smith from the Cowboys, who has had injury issues, Morgan Moses, and John Simpson. So they go out, they bolster that offensive line. They did lose a few players, Quentin Jefferson, Jordan Whitehead, and Bryce Huff, 3 guys that they relied on. They lost, but they made additions in the draft with like Fashanu and Malachi Corley that bolster the roster in those types of spots that they lost players on. There's a lot of people saying this is a potential playoff team. I think you can't overlook the Jets, especially if 12 is back there, pulling the trigger. This is a team that has a championship level defense. If the offense can step up, I mean, they're going to be dangerous.
Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall. I mean, it's when you look at it on paper without Aaron Rodgers. So if you just we're going to look at this team without the quarterback, they've got the best roster in the AFC East, in my opinion, like the most complete roster. And then you put Aaron Rodgers in, and it's like, oh, So then it turns into is he going to play?
And Joe, look at what they did this offseason. They didn't go out to try to acquire another quarterback, right?
No.
They moved Wilson. He goes to Denver.
Yep.
And the fact they didn't try to bring another veteran in or draft a guy just shows you they're all in on Aaron Rodgers. It's Aaron Rodgers or nothing.
Yeah.
And we're either going to have a repeat of last year or a team that could potentially go to the playoffs.
Yeah. The only difficulty, the only problem that I have with this whole conversation about Aaron Rodgers is the people that are like, oh, Jets fans are like, he's better than Josh Allen's ever been. It's like, right now? Are you sure? I don't think he's better than Josh Allen right now. Is he historically? Yes. But will his body hold up? Now he's had an entire year to rehab and get healthy, and that you can speak to that, like what that means for your body to not be hit for an entire year.
Right.
Actually, probably more than that. He only got hit once last year, and it spun when he went down. It wasn't even really a bad hit. So,
as of late, Joe, he's kind of gone silent. I know he still probably does his piece with McAfee and everything, but the silliness and the flat Earth and the
he got a little weird in the last week, but yes, to your point.
Yeah. I mean, I think that maybe he's locking in a little bit, which makes me even more nervous.
Yeah. So week 7, the Buffalo Bills host 1:00 that's another thing too. I think there's like 7 or 8 1:00 games for the Bills this year, which is going to make a whole bunch of people happy, including those of us that have to do post-game shows in the evening. But the Buffalo Bills on October 20th, week 7, host the Tennessee Titans. The Tennessee Titans last year, or this year, I should say, jettisoned their head coach Mike Vrabel after a 6-11 season and a 7-10 season the year before that. Rookie head coach Brian Callahan, which as soon as I heard that name, I was like, this has got to be the son of Bill Callahan. Sure enough, looked it up. And Bill Callahan, for me, the most famous thing Bill Callahan did was take over John Gruden's Raiders team and then lose to him in the Super Bowl. Outside of that, I think he was a great offensive line coach. Isn't that what Bill Callahan was effectively known as? Do you know off the top of your head?
No.
You're probably multitasking. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Second year quarterback Will Levis had a marginal to modest rookie season, in my
Bill
opinion.
Callahan's known for developing offensive lines, is what he's known for.
Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah,
Yeah.
offensive line coach. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was right on that one. So sometimes I
Yeah.
got a pro here. I'm gonna ask a question. I didn't mean to catch you while you were working. Sorry. Biggest, most notable thing is this is a team without Derrick Henry, which we just discussed, who is now a Raven. They did add Calvin Ridley, who is an amazingly dangerous wide receiver, and Tyler Boyd to go with DeAndre Hopkins. And basically, in my opinion, none of the stats from last year necessarily matter. They are, for the most part, an enigma with this new head coach and with Will Levis. They are not the same vibe as the Houston Texans as far as that goes,
Right.
with young coach, young quarterback. So we'll see how that game goes.
Yeah. It's a toss up. I mean, I don't really, they lose Derrick Henry, as we talked about. I mean, they're going to be in transition. They're basically bringing the Bengals stuff down to Tennessee. This is, Brian Callahan coached for the Bengals for a while. So I know him. I met him. Nice guy. Had dinner with him in Kansas City before a preseason game a couple years ago when I went up to visit Alex Van Pelt.
Nice.
But it's we don't know what they're going to get. But I will say this: the best move he made, and you talked about it, is hiring his father, because his father's not only a tremendous offensive line coach, but they'll do the little things correctly. They'll be sound. They won't make mental mistakes, and we'll see what he can do with this football team. But week eight, we go across the coast. We go all the way to the West Coast. We play in Seattle against the Seahawks, October 27th. Seattle last year 9-8. Seattle in a transition. Pete Carroll gone, but they bring in just a defensive genius in Mike McDonald, a guy that's probably known for having one of the best defensive minds in the NFL. They did lose some big names on their team. They lost Bobby Wagner, Jordan Brooks, and Damian Lewis. They're all elsewhere, but they did keep Leonard Williams. They did re-sign him. One of the things they did in the draft is try to secure some spots that they lost. Some guys needed some players. Byron Murphy II and Christian Haynes gets them bigger up the middle, but they do lack a true blue edge rusher. I still think this is a team in transition. The only thing that really worries me much about this game, obviously, is playing in Seattle, a tremendously loud crowd, historically rowdy crowd, and going all the way across the West Coast. And as we saw last year in the London game, I don't think you're going to see this team leave a day early or make any accommodations, because they didn't make accommodations flying across the pond, let alone whatever else.
Right. For me, the only thing that I have to say about this game, other than I want to go to it because I've never been to Seattle before, is the weirdest head coach firing ever when they fired Pete Carroll. And I mean, that was a don't go away, mad girl, just go away. I mean, I understand the pomp and circumstance around Bill Belichick, 20-something years, 6 Super Bowl rings, 8 Super Bowls or 9 Super Bowls. Like, yes, you let him take the podium and thank everybody for being a part of this organization. Pete Carroll is at the podium like, I don't know why I got fired. Like, I don't know what's going on. It was just a bizarre experience. So,
well, Pete's setting this way. This is how long Pete's coached. Okay, Pete Carroll coached New England teams in the Jets in New York when I was playing.
That's right.
That's how long he's coached. I mean, he's north of 70, I think.
Yes,
he was at USC. Sometimes it's time for a change, and that voice gets stale and that message gets stale. Yep. It's the same thing over and over again. Yep. And I think that's what you've seen here. But after that's so you're actually up. Go ahead. We're on week 9.
Week 9, second meeting with the Dolphins in Buffalo. As the Dolphins come to Buffalo, the only real comments I would have about this game is, number one, is Tua healthy, which he played the whole entire year last year, that bodes for him that he should be healthy. It's November 3rd. The weather should not be a factor, but it's always a crapshoot in Buffalo, especially in November. It could be hoodies and shorts weather, and it could also be snowing. So we'll see what happens as far as that goes. The biggest thing about this game for me, and we talked about this yesterday in the show, is this is literally probably the pivot point of the season for the Dolphins and the Bills. Like, the way the schedule makers put this together, the Bills have a tough schedule early and could kind of be behind. The Dolphins have a cake schedule early and could be out in front, and then they come to this game. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Bills lose that football game in Miami, right? So they're coming in 0-1 to the Dolphins, and then this is the point of the season where everything flip-flops on both teams, right? The Bills start winning, and the Dolphins start suffering some losses. So that's all I've got for this one.
Yeah, I mean, not much more to it than that. I think that, if you can't get up for a Miami game, then why are you playing, right? I
Right.
mean,
Exactly.
I think these two teams are starting to really, really become familiar with one another. We'll see how at this point in the season you start to see some attrition, you start to see some injuries and
Mhm.
things of that nature. So, no, I kind of like Miami coming in at this time of year. I know that everybody likes them to come in late. I was in Buffalo when they played them the last game of the season or second to last game of the season a few years ago, and it snowed and they played just fine.
Yep. Yep.
I
Yep.
don't I don't and Joe, I know this is my moment for my Joe Miller, my agree with Joe Miller that we should have a dome stadium comment. I don't I don't think the weather, other than playing in the sauna like we did in Miami a while back, I'm not sure the weather plays that big of a role, especially the cold weather like it used to. I
Yeah,
mean,
for sure.
I don't know what else to say about that, but no, I like them coming at this point in time so we can beat them at home and not have to listen to the fact that they played in snow and there
Yeah.
won't be any excuses. But
Yeah.
week 10 after that, we play the Indianapolis Colts at home. That's November 10th. I would imagine Richardson will be back, and this is a team that did a lot of work. Not only in the draft, but also in re-signing their own to make sure they had that receiver core locked up. Michael Pittman has been re-signed in the draft. They went out and got Mitchell from
Mhm.
Texas, a big-time home run hitter, a guy that can really, really get after it. But they signed Pittman, Kenny Moore II. They signed Zaire Franklin and Grover Stewart, all of those guys being their own that they're developing. And then they had what a lot of people feel is a great draft, one of the best drafts in the league this year. They get Latu to come from UCLA, the edge rusher. He does have a fused
Mhm.
neck. There is some question marks there. We talked about Mitchell, and then they got some offensive line depth in Bortolini and also Goncalves. I don't know how you even pronounce that. I'm not even going to try to pronounce it. But the thing is, this is a defense that didn't
Naga,
necessarily.
naga, naga.
Right,
Not
exactly.
gonna work here anymore.
But I'm already been fired from my Monday Night Football spot. But no, this is a team that defensively they got after the quarterback, got a ton of pressures. They didn't get a ton of sacks, right? I think their pressure
Right.
rate was top 10 in the league. With they feel bringing in Latu that maybe they can go ahead and get that sack total in the top 10 of the league. And then Mitchell comes in and has enough ability where I hate this term, but he could be wide receiver number 2. That he could hop in as a rookie and provide a lot of spark for that Colts offense. So Colts team slowly climbing up there, making a lot of very, very smart moves, smart decisions, developing their own. At this point in the season, you got a bye week, and especially with who they got in week 13. This might be, I hate to use the term trap game, but this might be one of those areas where this is a trap game.
Yeah, it could be. Moving on. So the Buffalo Bills, after they play in Indianapolis, they host the Kansas City Chiefs. A 4:35 game, is that, or is that 25? 4:25 game, sorry.
Yeah.
On November 17th at Highmark Stadium. The Kansas City Chiefs, reigning two-time Super Bowl champs, come to Buffalo for the regular season for the first time since the COVID year, when it was rainy and there were no fans in the stands. They are the standard. They are the team that everybody's chasing, especially the Buffalo Bills. They drafted Xavier Worthy after the Bills traded them the 28th pick in the draft. And you know what? Xavier Worthy is always going to be tied to the Buffalo Bills with Keon Coleman. Did the Bills make the right choice? We will see. I think they did. There's something to be said for running a 4.21. There's something also to be said for weighing 165 pounds and playing wide receiver in the NFL. They do have the Rashid Rice situation going on currently, who, towards the end of the season, he came around. He was a good player for them. The reality is it seems like over the last several years, no matter what's going on drama-wise around this team, you just can't count them out. It's the Chiefs. There's really not a whole lot to
Right.
talk about here.
No, I don't think so. I mean, we know what they are. We know what they're
Yep.
going to be. We know whoever lines up at wide receiver is going to run some dynamic stuff in the passing game. We all know about who they call the Big Yeti, Travis Kelce at tight end. Their
Yep.
defense is incredibly underrated, incredibly underrated.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with Chris Jones
Mm-hmm.
playing defensive line. So yeah, I mean, we know what they're all about. I mean, there's really not
Yep.
much to talk about when it comes to the Chiefs.
Yep.
Good thing after the Chiefs, we do have a bye week, week 12, and I think this possibly in recent seasons might hit at maybe the most perfect time of bye weeks that we've had in recent years.
Agreed. Then you have the 49ers after that game.
Oh, I have the 49ers?
Yeah, they're the even game. Yep. I have
thought,
'cause I have week 12. I have a week 11. Week 12 is the Niners.
and
So
then
we double.
no, week 12 is the 11's. I counted this wrong. Woo!
So I have the Rams. So you have a bunch of information on the Rams as well?
No, I don't have a ton of information on the Rams, but I do have information on the 49ers because I do prepare for disaster because I'm an O-lineman and everything's not always perfect. After knowing the play and steps and hand placement and head placement, it's basically
Right.
1-2, right?
Right.
Niners are a team that obviously speaks for themselves. Last year's Super Bowl or NFL champion, runner-up, tremendous football team, and they didn't do a ton of stuff in free agency, but they signed some of their some core players. And our favorite, Leonard Floyd, Gross Mateos, and then also Jordan Elliott. They lost Eric Armstead and Javon Kinlaw from their defensive line, but they've got new bodies to fill in and guys that are tremendous players. Like I said, Leonard Floyd, that one hurts. He was a big-time player for the Bills.
Yeah.
They need a little bit better up front on their offensive line. And really the only thing they did was they picked a guy in the third round named Dominic Pooney. So honestly, if I look at San Francisco, a quarterback that I still think is streaky, Mr. Irrelevant, right?
Mm-hmm.
I still think he's streaky. We do know they bring a tremendous defense, especially up front. It's going to be an all-day affair for our offensive line. They're going to have to protect Josh, but Josh does that one thing that helps, which is he's incredibly mobile. An offense that likes to run the ball and do some things, but they are dynamic a little bit in the passing game. But the thing about the Niners is a team that lost the championship last year, I don't think they got better. I don't think they really brought a bunch of players. I don't think they got better. I think they lost. Right. If anything, I think they dipped a little bit. Yeah. So the Niners are basically – their window is completely open and the drapes are blowing out the window, right? I think they're at that spot where we might have been to the point of they need to get it done because they're getting ready to have cap situation as well.
Yeah, for sure. The best thing about this game is that it's in Buffalo in prime time, right? So, one thing is for sure, this Niners team is not going to overlook Josh Allen like the Niners team that was head coached by Robert Saleh, who said, "Oh yeah, basically he's just another Cam Newton," and it's like, no, Robert, he's not anything.
Right.
Well, he's not anything like it, but he's not. He's Cam Newton and a whole bunch more. But yeah, that should be a fun football game at home in Buffalo. I'm looking forward to that one. Week 14. Oh,
yes, 14.
14 of the NFL season, 13 for the Buffalo Bills. Yeah, this is where it gets. Yeah, week 13. It's in front of me. The LA Rams. The Buffalo Bills travel to Los Angeles to play the LA Rams, coached, as everybody knows, by Sean McVay. Matt Stafford is brilliant, but he's just getting old. And I think the most impressive thing about Matt Stafford is to see him just get destroyed on a football field and not come off the field. Like whatever's happening to his hands, to his ribs, to his liver, if he gets pummeled, he's going to stay on the football field. Big thing for this football team. They no longer have Aaron Donald, who is retired. Their wide receiver group is still very good with Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, who was a rookie last year. They bolstered the defense in the draft. They went primarily draft, obviously, knowing that Aaron Donald is not there anymore. They've got a solid running back in Kyren Williams. Last year, they were 7th in total yards. This just speaks to Matt Stafford and effectively Sean McVay. 7th in total yards on offense, 11th in rushing yards, 9th in passing yards, 8th in total points. The big question mark for this team is going to be the defense, and can the Bills beat them? This might be a race to 45 for the Buffalo Bills and the Rams. Oh, you're muted.
Definitely. I mean, this is a Rams team that is that's offensively dangerous, and everybody wants to point at Aaron Donald retiring, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you can ding them for it. I mean, they've done a lot this offseason to get better. They've done a lot this offseason, and I think Donald was playing at a level that wasn't the reason he retired. It wasn't what he normally played at. It's what he wasn't used to.
Mm-hmm.
So no, I mean, we've already flown out there once and won in a season opener, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
So this is a game we should be able to take care of. Again, Rams finished 10-7 last year, but they're always dangerous. But the next game is that would be December 15th in Detroit. Joe, I still want to go to this game. I think we need to make it happen, man.
I'm in. I mean, let's
the Mafia is going to be driving across to Ontario trying to get
3 hours
there,
away.
right?
Three
Exactly.
hours away.
They're going to be driving across Ontario to get there.
I've seen the Bills. I've seen the Bills play there before. So I saw them play a preseason game there, and I saw them play the first snow game, the November game.
I was going to say Detroit, a home away from home, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Seems to be our the Green Bay always plays in Milwaukee. I think the Bills, instead of they talked about going to Toronto every year to play a game, I think we just go out to Detroit and play a game.
I like it.
I thought the Lions did a tremendous job this offseason. They did lose C.J. Gardner-Johnson. I think he's in Philadelphia now. They lost Jonah Jackson, but they brought in guys like DJ Reader, Carlton Davis, Marcus Davenport, and Kevin Zeitzler in free agency. So they got better there. Then their draft was tremendous. I mean, most people gave their draft an A+, led by Terran Arnold, a tremendous player. And then you look at who they re-signed. They just re-signed Goff, and then they re-signed his number one target, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and then they got Penei Sewell, the all-pro offensive lineman, the tackle. This is a team geared up to do really, really big things.
Yeah.
I think this football game is going to be, nobody's talking about this one. They're talking about the Chiefs. They're talking about the Niners. This game's as hard as those games to me. This is as tough as those games to me, because the thing you're going to get out of Detroit Lions, they're going to put their hand on the ground. They're going to be in front of you. And they're going to hit you in the face.
That's right.
They're going to play physical football, and they're going to get after you. And at this point in the season, it will be an interesting matchup for sure.
Yeah, the best thing the Bills have going for them in this football game is that Jared Goff is their quarterback. Jared Goff is streaky. He is about as streaky as they come. He can play lights out for a half of a football game, and then the wheels can just fall off.
They can, but he's also a guy that can play pretty consistent football, man.
He can.
And the way they built that team, Joe, I think it's very complimentary of his skill set. And again, it's kind of like San Francisco. The San Francisco and Detroit to me are very, very similar.
I would agree.
We're not going to put too much pressure on the quarterback. We're going to run the football, play great defense, and let him make plays.
Yeah, for sure. And this is a football team that is just drafted very, very well the last several years. So it's hard not to root for them. And it might be my sentimental Super Bowl pick for this year, the Bills and the Lions. So a rematch in the Super Bowl of that game, which would be wonderful. And Ralph Wilson would probably be jumping for joy. For those of you that don't know and have never heard and have lived under a rock, Ralph Wilson is from Detroit and a former co-owner of the Detroit Lions before he founded the Buffalo Bills. So that would be the Ralph Wilson Bowl for sure. I can't even imagine the press and the media coverage if that ever happened. Not to mention, both teams are going to the Super Bowl. One of them has to win, right? They're not going to tie. And then the whole Ralph Wilson experience and all that kind of stuff. But actually, to that point, just to belabor this because we're already running late, the Bills color scheme, the very first year they were founded was silver and blue. So they actually had the Lions colors when they were in the because they were in the NFL and the Bills were in the AFL. But yeah, interestingly enough, what do we got? Week 15 and obviously week 17, the Bills are going to play the Patriots. 2 times in 3 weeks. They also have a new head coach in Gerard Mayo, which I was surprised that they did not hire Mike Vrabel. They've got a new quarterback in Drake May, and it's funny, you tier it down, right? You go from the Texans, right, and then you go to the Titans, and then down to like the Patriots from an expectation standpoint of what you're going to get. Drake May has been compared to Josh Allen because that's what we do to all rookie quarterbacks. We compare them all to Josh Allen. They've re-signed a couple of their own guys, which is great. This is a rebuilding football team. They're rebuilding from the ground up, like every single facet and part of this organization. It's a culture shift. You name it. Not much is. I think the line on them to win the East is 2,400 to 1. So that's all you need to know. Not that any game is a gimme, but that's all you need to know about these 2 games.
But with their with their offensive line situation, I mean, I don't think it's a stretch to say that Jacoby Brissett starts week 1. Now, is he starting by week 15, 17? I'm not sure.
Yeah, we'll see.
the fact of the matter is this is a weak offensive line football team. You talked about why, you were shocked they didn't hire Vrabel. If you watch the Brady roast, you learned real quick that Kraft wasn't bringing in anybody connected very well. I mean, I know Mayo is late, but Vrabel was always thought of as like, Belichick 2.0
Right.
or a lot like him. So, and probably would do a lot of the same things that Bill did. So they wanted a fresh start, brought in Mayo. But yeah, I mean, this is a football team that's in a complete rebuild, and it's going to take them a while to get back. I'm not a Drake May fan. I know there's a lot that are. I'm not a Drake May fan. If they want to do him any favors, just look at what happened to your conference mate or your divisional mate with the Jets and what they did to Wilson, putting him behind that awful offensive line.
Right.
You want to talk about PTSD and seeing ghosts. I mean, you want to ruin a guy real quick, go ahead and play him. So we got the Patriots 2 times in 3 weeks, and we got the Jets again. And we talked about the Jets earlier. So the thing I do like about that 3-game stretch, if we got to win some conference game or some divisional games, we kind of control our own destiny with those last 3 games.
Yeah, it's gonna be a great season. It's are the Bills a sure thing to win? No. Did 2 of the other teams in this division get better this year? Yes. Did the Bills take a step back? Yes. Like, there's a lot to be said for it's going to be an interesting season in the way that it's going to play out. But this is a team that has learned to win. This is a team that's lost some leadership, but they've got some very good leadership. They've got some new guys coming in. It's going to be a fun year. And I like the way this is probably one of my more favorite schedules as schedule releases have come out. I just like the way this one is rolled. I like the 1 o'clocks. I like the prime times that we have. I like that we're not playing on Thanksgiving. I like that we're not playing on Christmas. Like, there's a lot about this schedule that I really, really like. And this was fun. This is the first time that I've done kind of an in-depth look at the schedule and who were playing. But before I get us out of here, do you have any final thoughts or any final comments?
Only final comments are, obviously, again, as a person that's played 16 games, and now we're playing 17 games and talking about adding 18 games. This is a long, long season. With as many young players as we're going to rely on, especially rookies, this can cause issues towards the end of the latter part of the season, with rookies playing football games in the weeks and months that they never even imagined they were going to play before. So, with attrition in that, I worry a little bit about the end of the season, but I do like where all of our big games fall, and they fall relatively early to the middle of this part of the schedule, to where we don't have to maybe deal with some of the attrition rate that we have over the last couple of years.
Well, you guys got a little bit of extra time from Jerry O and Joe Miller on this episode of the Overreaction Buffalo Sports Show. But yes, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you for being a part of this. As we always like to say, please subscribe to the Overreaction Buffalo Sports Network, whatever platform you are consuming this on. But for me, for Jerry, for John, for all of Bills Mafia, we love you guys. Go Bills.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.
Don't tell